Hello and welcome to another Reaper miniature. This one is Drago Voss. He is a assassin by trade, human assassin I think he is, and that's what I used him for. I needed a rogue for D&D, and I quite liked. He isn't quite what my character is because he's got some metal armor as well as leather, which I do not have. My character, he does not have metal, but I just really like the look of him and the two weapons and everything like that. So this is a metal figure, it's not one of the bones, and it was excellent in every way except the short sword has had a pretty bad bend in it, and that particular bend, being metal, is quite difficult to get out. You can't just straighten it, because if you're lucky you can, but it has a tendency to have a little bit of a bow in it no matter what, but the bow is like an S-bend. It's faint, but it's there. It's just hard sometimes to get them out. There was a bend in the actual main sword, but when I straightened it, I also pulled it away from me. It doesn't stretch the actual metal out, but it did. It means it doesn't just fold back into place. You can sometimes do that and get that bend out of it. Now, luckily, although the bend was big, it was a basic curve. So straightening it and pulling it got it pretty much straight. The other one, it wasn't. It was slightly twisted, and that's where the whole S-bend came into it. Other than that, though, the figure is fantastic. It paints really well. I do like how their metal figures paint. That's one thing I love. It's really cool how their metals paint. Primed it in Army Painter, and I primed him in black because he was going to be roguish and darkish of colours. So I went with a black primer, and then lots of different shades. Mostly the paints used were Reaper, and red was the main motif. A lot of dark colours. I didn't go with any bright reds. It was all dark. So he is, the idea I had behind him was he's a noble, which it can be fun to have a noble rogue, because with the background of noble, he comes from a well-to-do family, and so that was my whole concept, was that the family was very controlling. What he eats, who he sees, his education, everything. So he started to rebel by learning how to escape, and he had to learn how to hide, he had to learn how to stealth, and he got very good at it. And then when he got older, into his late teens and then early 20s, he found that there was an actual market for rogues. And although he didn't need the money, it was something that he found very appealing to operate in that sort of underworld. And none of them know that he's a noble. He's sort of Bruce Wayne, but out for himself sort of thing. It's like the Bruce Wayne and Batman, but he's out for himself. It's been a lot of fun to play. D&D 5th Ed is, I've really enjoyed it. I haven't played D&D since 3rd Ed. It just started getting more and more complicated. I didn't like 4th Ed at all, so I sort of avoided the whole thing. But 5th is sort of streamlined. Characters at low level are a bit more powerful. Don't feel completely useless all the time like you could before. And it's just good fun. So it's been interesting to sort of get back into, but it's also been great from a figure point of view because it's enforced me to actually paint some of my figures. I was doing a lot of kits before, and I've been back doing figures, and the last 4 I think I've been actually happy with. Before that I was having a period where I wasn't very happy with what I was actually producing. It just wasn't coming together in the way that I really wanted. But the last 4, I guess, yeah, the last 4, which are all the D&D ones, I've been much happier with. Partly because I've had a set idea, a proper concept of character. It's sometimes, I find it harder just to pull out a figure sometimes and go, what colour am I going to paint you? And sometimes I used to start, and I'd be halfway through and realise that this isn't working. I'm on a very bad line when it came to the colours. I've been much more in line with what I've been doing right from the start, before I even started it. Silurians I knew was going to be silver, with green as the main colour, and brown sort of add-ons. This guy I knew was going to be red, brown and silver. Kritfayle, my ranger, my half-elf, he was going to be greens. And I have not yet painted one for my standard fighter. So, what was... Oh yes, the one I did before that was from Zombicide. Last one was a Zombicide figure, which I quite liked. So I do need to do one for my standard fighter, which I might do Valoris from Pathfinder. Their figure. That's kind of cool, the mercenary. So these are great. They really are. If he was $5, I think, for a metal figure, $5.50, something like that. And I don't think you can beat that. They come. He came all one piece. I didn't have to glue anything together. I did add a different base. He came on a straight base, much like a lot of them. That's the only thing you might want to look for. He has a base that goes in that direction. Like it's literally a little bit more than his feet on either side. And so that's fine if you've got it on a shelf and you're not touching it ever, but if you're doing anything else, he's very tippy. You know, especially if you're playing in a D&D game where you're going to move him a lot. You're always moving the characters on the table. It's very easy just to knock him over. So I had a spare square base, glued him down, added some putty, added some grass and rock just to give him, you know, some extra sort of texture to the overall figure. And they're great for that. So although in some ways it's a disadvantage having these tiny bases, I mean, it's not that hard. Most of us have spare bases we've picked up from different places, and you know, you can work around that. And bases aren't very expensive. You can go on eBay and you can get a whole bunch for a few bucks if you feel you need to. So we went with a reds and browns and the steel cuirass sort of thing. And I'm very happy with how that all turned out, considering his small size. And I don't consider myself an advanced painter by any means. You know, there's absolutely no way I'm an advanced painter. So for me, I am really happy with how this looks for being intermediate. And I'm enjoying him. He's good fun. So yeah, it's always the thing with Reapers. If you're looking for tabletop minis, you can get packs of them for dirt cheap. And they're not that bad, you know. Some of them are great, especially beasties, because that's the thing. If you're a GM and you want to have beasties, a lot of the time, if you have anything that's large, some of the golems and things like that, you're looking at big bucks. And who wants to spend $25 on a mud, you know, golem or a stone golem sort of thing? Whereas with Reaper, they're about, I think, $8 Canadian for a stone golem. And if you're going to use it more than once, and if you're going to have fun painting it, that's not going to be a bad price. That's not going to ruin anything you're doing by picking that up. I wouldn't want to spend 30 or 40 on one of those suckers, but you know, I'll pay $8 for it for sure, using it on the table. But a lot of the skeleton figures come in more than multiple figures per pack, sort of thing. So you can knock off archers and spearmen and swordsmen. You can get quite a few for only a few bucks. And they'll do you time and time again, skeletons and things like that, goblins and orcs and all that sort of stuff. And then they have some that are like lieutenants and leaders sort of thing. And you can just get away with it for such a cheap price. So I think Reaper is fantastic for supplying the tabletop role-playing community for that sort of stuff. Well worth having a look at just to see what they have. If you're after minis, you could find something there that you haven't seen or hadn't thought of. Their new Kickstarter is just about out, and there's some amazing ones in there, like the coral golems and that. They're really cool, and the shipwreck golem. When they actually hit the market, I think they're good fun. Those are. So there you have it. Drago Voss. Thanks for watching.